let us catch up and get some sense made of this crazy world by the Daily Telegraph columnist, former Collingwood supporter and blogger to the nation, Tim Blair. Good to talk to you again, Tim. I loved a little bit of research you did for this great nation this week where you simply Googled the name Chris Bowen and superpower and you got lots of matches.
About 8,000 or so, I think, something like that, because he's all the time talking about Australia being a renewable energy superpower, that we'll apparently be able to push lesser nations around, like half of Europe, the United States, because we've got a lot of I don't know, batteries. But
it's nonsensical. Let's have a look. We've got some clips here of him. Have a look at him mouthing this ridiculous phrase.
We can be a renewable energy superpower.
Green energy superpower.
And a renewable energy superpower when it
being a renewable energy superpower.
A renewable energy powerhouse. Renewable energy superpower. Renewable energy superpower. Renewable energy powerhouse.
Is that a country that has not enough electricity, and while it does have, it costs too much?
I've been writing for years about, you go to the Middle East and because they've got all the oil, petrol is very cheap. If we're a renewable energy superpower, or even anything remotely like a renewable energy superpower, we wouldn't have electricity bills. They'd be covered. You go to Kuwait, you pay for like a couple of cents per litre of petrol because they're a genuine energy superpower. We, on the other hand, being a renewable energy superpower, it's not working out quite that well, is it?
It's not working out that well. In fact, we've got tunnel boring machines stuck under the snowy mountains. We've got $20 billion and 10 years past the use-by date. Good news in your neck of the woods, though, just south of you. As I mentioned at the top of the program, the South Australian government is going to oppose that offshore wind project. It's going to be interesting to see whether Canberra actually backs down.
Yeah, I also noticed in that report that South Australia has a primary industries minister, which has got to be one of the easiest jobs in the history of the Australian Commonwealth. That's just rock up, check your clock, and go home for the day. But how do you stop wind at a border? Is this what they're sort of trying to do? So what sort of industries? How are they going to enforce this?
They don't want this to be a renewable energy zone. They're going to oppose the declaration by Canberra, but Chris Bowen can just override it and say, too bad we're doing it, and they start building wind turbines out there.
With superpower legislation, he'll just sweep it aside. He's the boss. I wouldn't be messing with a superpower. It doesn't end well.
It's just an absurdity. We make ourselves weaker. We're running out of electricity, and he calls it a superpower. China must be laughing at us as they send us the blades and buy our coal.
There are villages in China, relatively small villages in China, that on Chris Bowen's metric are superpowers.
Now, I've got to get your thoughts.
And they've never heard of Australia,
I've got to get your thoughts on New Zealand becoming an Australian state. Of course, they're there mentioned at the start of our constitution because there was a thought they might want to be in. But one outgoing New Zealand Labor Party MP has suggested they should still keep thinking about this. And Barnaby Joyce, who's had a bit of a history with New Zealand himself, he's kind of open to the idea. Have a look.
Logically, why we've got two defence forces, two different monetary policies, they should be the single policy. It was supposed to happen under history. We could actually bring them in without a referendum. It's actually part of the Constitution now.
Well, I don't think he's right to say there's two defence forces. There's one,
exactly,
isn't there?
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
They shut theirs down a long time ago because they knew they could rely on us and the US and others. It's strange how things move around so quickly. It's not so long ago when half of the Australian left, or basically almost all of them, wanted Australia to become a New Zealand state under St. Jacinda. Remember that? They adored her. What's happened to her now? I think she's off to the United Nations to run some kind of, I don't know, superpower. Isn't that the phrase we're using today? That's the phrase du jour.
We are such good friends with New Zealand that when we get nuclear subs, they won't be able to visit New Zealand because they've got a nuclear ban on. Let's just have a check at, speaking about good neighbours, you would think that President Joe Biden would have something to discuss with the President of Costa Rica, of course, a pretty important Central American country for him. But have a look at him here, meeting the President, and he's got nothing to say except read what someone's written on a little cheat card for him.
And for your leadership on the migration challenges that we face every single day. But today I also want to thank you for deepening our security cooperation. That's one of my objectives today, and I hope yours, including dealing with organized crime. And as we discuss our work through the Americas Partnership for Economic Prosperity.
Yeah, the president of Costa Rica, very impressed with his powerful neighbour, no doubt.
I love how whatever notes Joe Biden had there, they were obviously incredibly thorough, because if you have another look at that clip, at some point someone's written, "Move your tie," because he's left his tie draped right over the central paragraph. And it's like, and thanks for showing up here, Mr. Puerto Rico and whatever the hell you're from, some dude, move your tie. And we'll see you later in the garden.
It's just frightening. Thanks so much for joining us, Tim. Appreciate your input. Tim Blair there. You can read him in the Daily Telegraph.